We find that the certain laws in the Torah, negative commandments, even if they wouldn't have been given there would be an understanding that you cannot maintain a society unless there's certain fundamental principles in place. For instance, if there's no respect of one's ownership rights, and people continuously cross boundaries and take things which are not rightfully theirs, you cannot have a functional society. People have to recognize and respect one another's rights, that what is yours, what is mine. And the only way you have a right to take possession of mine is only if I allow you to take possession. If I allow you to go into my domain. That classification of law is called mishpatim, logical, rational laws. And without them, you cannot maintain a society. Otherwise, you have survival of the fittest, you have chaos. That's mishpatim. So if you're an ethical, moral person, you don't even have to believe in God. Would you say, are you permitted to take something that's not rightfully yours? The person would say, definitely not. Because if one doesn't respect the other person's existence, you don't have an existence. A society is where there is a cohesive level of understanding and each one complements the other one. But if each one's not complementing, but one is always overtaking the other, that's not society, that's individualism. You can be the individualist within society, but there has to be a basic principle that I'm concerned about others, because if you're not concerned about others, only yourself, that's you, but it's not society. That's called mishpatim. That's classified as rational laws. What about to mislead a person? And misleading a person. And because you mislead him, he does something which is harmful to himself. Also, that's ethically, morally, logically, it's something which is not acceptable. You advise a person wrongly, you convince him it's in his best interest, but ultimately, you're misguiding him, misadvising him, and the interest is your interest, or your interest is only to harm the other person. It's understood. You're not permitted to do this. What about, this is what we brought up yesterday, which the Rambam can discuss, which is a Mishnah in Chulin. Just as you're not permitted to take something which is not rightfully yours, what happens if you allow a person to believe that he's beholden to you, and because of that beholdenness, he feels indebted, and he feels he's a debtor, and he has to pay the debt. So when he's going to reciprocate and pay the debt, he's only reciprocating because he believes he's a debtor, because he has a debt of gratitude. But factually, you misled him to believe that, but factually, there is no basis for the debt. So if that's the case, that's equivalent of stealing. Because now, by allowing him to believe that he has a debt of gratitude, he's going to be offering me something in reciprocation, which I have no right to take. Because the only reason why he's doing it is because I allowed him to believe that he's my debtor, that he's indebted to me. And we'll give the example in a moment. That's called genevas das. That's stealing. You, by misleading the other person, allowing him to believe something, and due to that, he feels indebted. Now he will reciprocate, which you have no right to. That reciprocation. You're receiving something you have no right to. So therefore, it's the equivalent of stealing. That's the concept. Let's read inside. Also lignos das abrios, bafil das nochri. You're not permitted, literally means to steal through misleading even the mind of another person, even if he's a non-Jew. This situation, Ketzat, for instance, lo yimka lenochri bosen nevelo, b'mokum bosen shchuta. Give you an example. Now, years ago, a certain segment of society believed that kosher deli was better quality than non-kosher deli. Delicatessen. You know? Non-kosher deli had all kinds of fillers in it. Kosher deli was closer to be quality meat. Didn't have the dregs and all the other fillers that non-kosher had. Okay? Also, they believed, society, that ritually slaughtered meat, quality speaking, is better meat than an animal that's put to death, killed. Ritually slaughtered, it's more refined. Animals dying differently. It's a higher quality meat. And a non-Jew comes to you and says, I'd like to buy meat. And the Jew says to the non-Jew, you know something? Although you're permitted to eat meat that's not kosher, but I will give you kosher meat like I eat myself. And the butcher gives him non-kosher meat, allow him to believe he's receiving kosher meat. So he's not feeding him something he's not permitted to eat, because the non-Jew is not bound by the laws of what? Of dietary laws. But he's allowing the non-Jew to believe that he's receiving something of a higher quality, because he values ritually slaughtered meat more than meat that's not ritually slaughtered. So what happens? Now this non-Jew feels indebted to the butcher because he treated him, gave him something of a higher quality, although a lesser quality would have been sufficient. You offer a person a gift, and you know the man's not going to be willing to receive the gift, and you know that in advance. Excuse me. Don't offer him a special type of gift, knowing he's not going to accept it from you. So why are you offering it? Because you know he's not going to accept it. Here you get mileage without any cost. Because now this person is going to be beholden to you, believing that you value him to such a degree that you won't give him the gift. The only reason why he didn't give it is because you weren't willing to take it. You should not open a barrel of wine or barrels that you have to open anyway to sell to your customers. To mislead him, to seduce him. He's only opening those barrels of wine only in his honor, because we mentioned yesterday, when you open a barrel of wine, very often there's a chance it may sour, turn to vinegar. So here he says, I'm opening the barrel especially in your honor because you're special. The fact that all the wine will be pre-sold, or was pre-sold, will definitely be sold. There's no chance that he will take a loss. And something similar to this situation. Even one word which is seductive, let's say you normally speak a certain way to other people, and you go to speak to this person in third person. You know, when you speak to a special person, very often you speak in third person. You don't say you say the president, the chairman of the board, right? This. But the truth is you couldn't care less who he is. You're only saying it that he should believe that you value him to that degree. So again, it's misleading him. Through your words, you're misleading him by speaking in the third person. So he processes that meaning, you value him to a greater degree, although you don't. And you're only saying it that he should believe that. You have to have, your lips should speak truth. Your spirit should be proper, appropriate, with Torah and a pure heart. Mikol omol v'havavos. Worth in all that the omol, the toil and whatever else. You don't have to be yourself. people, they go and they contrive all types of ways that they should be able to impress another person because they want to impress the person. What do you want to impress the person? If you're if you're a respectful person, you speak respectfully to anybody. The answer is you're contriving and coming up with all kinds of ways to depict yourself or the person you're speaking to because you want to be valued to a certain way in his eyes. You know, you read over to us, I reserved the seat for you. When you saw him coming, all of a sudden you reserved the seat for him. Otherwise, he'd be standing like everybody else would be standing. You didn't reserve the seat for him. But that he believes you reserved the seat. Therefore, you went out of your way for him. You're misleading him through your speech. It's not a proper way. It's not truthful. But it's not only not truthful, this non-truth causes that you will be receiving something or valued where you don't deserve to be valued or receive. Uses an interesting term, ruach nochon, an appropriate spirit. Sfas emes means your mouth should speak truth. Ruach nochon. You know, if a person is truly confident, you say it the way it is. You don't have to play up to anybody. You don't have to couch your words in a certain way because you want to impress that person. And very often, a person who's not acknowledged and he feels he should be acknowledged and he's not, he goes into the doghouse. Why? If you are who you are and you know who you are, whether that person acknowledges you or doesn't acknowledge you, it's totally irrelevant. But no, you need that acknowledged to validate yourself. What do you need his acknowledgement to validate? Well, because he's a rich man. See, if he's a person who would acknowledge me, if I be worthy of acknowledgement, he doesn't, then you have to figure out why wasn't I acknowledged, because that reflects badly on me. Because if he would, because I be that special, he would acknowledge me. And I believe I am that special person. But if it's just because you want to feel ingratiated by that person who acknowledges you, does it really make a difference if he acknowledges you or doesn't acknowledge you? Do you realize he's written up number 16 in Forbes 10,000? Doesn't even exist, that magazine, that rating. And he said good morning to me. Years ago, they used to say, when he shook your hand, did you wash it? I haven't washed my hand in 6 months since he shook my hand. Understand? That's how insecure that person is. He needs that. And he tells the world. Do you know tonight who I saw on the street? Who did you see? John Doe? John Smith? Who did you see? A person says to me, did you see him? I said, who? And I knew what he was talking about. I said, no, I didn't see him. I didn't see anybody special. You mean you didn't see that person? I saw a lot of people. But again, because to me, it doesn't mean anything. This person seeing me, it's like he saw the eclipse. He saw an eclipse. He was at Mount Everest. He saw an iceberg. He went to the glaciers. This is the glaciers. He saw a mountain range. He saw a shooting star. You say a blessing when you see these things. Because those are special acts of creation.